Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this episode, I'm joined by Suckler Farm Manager for the Lyons Domain Farm, Sean Roddy. Sean will be featuring as part of the Teagasc Virtual Beef Week on Thursday the 9th of July to discuss grassland management on his farm. But first, I asked Sean, how did he get involved in farming?
So I grew up on a farm. I'm originally from County Louth, a little place called Bellurgan, just outside Dundalk. And my dad and my uncle would have had a beef farm, and later on then a suckler farm. So always out on the farm every chance I got. And when the time came to decide what I was going to do after my leaving cert, decided to go on and do a degree in agriculture.
And from the degree in agriculture, it opened a lot of opportunities for you.
I suppose I did my degree up in Queen's in Belfast with in conjunction with Greenmount Agricultural College, and part of that course was a year's work experience, and I got a chance to go to New Zealand with that and see a different way of farming and experience an awful lot. So it opens up massive doors, and I think an agricultural qualification it's probably one of the best qualifications you can get if you actually want to go and do a bit of travel, because everyone farms all over the world.
And that led you to taking the job as manager of the Lyons Domain Farm.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. So I, after spending 2 stints in New Zealand, either side of several years in the UK, I took on the job about 3 years ago there to set up the farm here at Lyons Domain. So the farm itself is 587 acres of farmland, and we have about 180 acres of that dedicated to the suckler beef enterprise, which I'm solely responsible for.
Can you tell me about the farm system you're running?
Yeah, so we run, it's an all spring calving suckler herd, and we bring all progeny through to beef. The breed of cattle we're running is stabilizers and stabilizer cross cows. We start calving around, target calving dates around the 1st of March, and trying to calve in as tight a block as possible. So this year our calving window was 8 weeks, and hopefully we can try and even get it tighter than that, but we're pretty pleased with that. All stock are then finished as steers and heifers off grass on their second summer, so trying to get cattle finished off grass at 18 to 22 months of age, targeting 600 to 650 kilos. So it should give us a 300 to 320 kilo carcass at R3.
Obviously, grass is something that you've put a lot of work into. What are the key things that you're focusing on when it comes to grass?
Where do you start with what's the key things you focus on with grass? I suppose everything, it starts from the ground up, I suppose. So getting soil fertility correct has been the first step. So there's been a lot of lime spread so far on the farm. So we did a soil test when I first arrived, and we did a soil test last year as well, so 2 years after our first one. And we've probably spread about 280 to 300 ton of lime across the entire estate to date. And then it's looking at building up P's and K's, improving our swards, have all been a basic part of it as well. And then following on from that, we've done investments into the infrastructure so that we can actually utilize the grass we grow, because there's no point in doing all the work in a soil fertility perspective if you can't utilize the grass. So we've moved water troughs that allow us to set up smaller divisions so we can keep all the animals moving. They get a fresh break of grass every 2 days, and it allows us to put a fence up behind them as well so that we can grow more grass as well. So it's trying to graze it in 2 days and grow it then in 20, 21 days.
And what size paddocks are you operating?
So basically when on the farm when I first came, we had 11 divisions, 11 fields, and this has been broken down into about 17 paddocks, and then those 17 paddocks can all be divided with temporary reels and standards into 1 hectare breaks. And a 1 hectare break roughly gives us enough grazing for 50 cows and 50 calves for 2 days, or 100 followers for 2 days. So it means that we can alter our group size. Our group sizes suit the size of paddocks that we've got. If the group sizes were any smaller, it'd take them too long to get through the grass. Or equally, if we made the break sizes any bigger, we wouldn't get the utilisation.
And you're participating in a grass group. What benefits have you got from being a member?
Yeah, I find it really good. It's a very diverse group. There's some suckler men, there's finishers, and everyone's kind of at a different stage in their grass journey. So, like, as I'm originally a Louth man and I've been overseas for a good few years, it's actually, I find it really helpful to just understand sort of the locality. Has been really beneficial from that point of view, because there's a lot of experience there in the other farmers. And as well as that, then it's just a good way of me benchmarking my farm on where I should be in comparison to farms of a similar soil type and climate to my own.
And are you seeing benefits to measuring grass on a weekly basis?
Yeah, well, I'd always be a firm believer in if you don't measure, you can't manage. Like we've gone, this year has been a particularly trying year from a grass point of view. Last week was the first time this year that I've had a surplus of grass, where we've actually had grass growth above demand. So if I wasn't measuring grass, I would have ran out of grass a long time ago, and I'd be facing a much tougher problem. But as it was, with walking the farm weekly, I'm able to hold my round length. And actually, just yesterday, after all the rain and everything we got, I actually managed to take 10 acres of surplus silage out. So if I had eaten all my grass, I'd probably still be feeding out silage. So instead of that, now I'm actually back to making silage again, which is a nice swing around and a very fast swing around. And I put that all down to being able to measure grass regularly.
You were awarded the Most Climate Conscious Farmer of the Year award by the FPD Macra na Firma Young Farmer of the Year last December. How are you making your beef system more sustainable?
Yeah, I suppose sustainability is a complicated topic, because it means a different thing to different people at different points. But I suppose from my end, one of my past careers, I worked in carbon footprinting of farms in the UK, and I suppose it's looking at just driving efficiency. And I suppose if you look at carbon and sustainability, it's all about getting the most amount of output from the least amount of input. So here on the farm, we're trying to grow as much grass from as little fertilizer as possible. So we have clover in every sward. I've just trialed some multi-species swards as well this year. And we're also including red clover in our silage ground. So we're trying to reduce the input on all our swards, but also, as well as that, make sure that if we reduce our inputs, that we're not reducing our outputs, and that we can actually push our outputs on. So by getting our grass performance right, and then combined with that we're running stabilizer cattle, which are a forage-based animal with a high feed efficiency, we're converting that high quality grass and high quality forages into meat in a very efficient manner. So that all ties in to being sustainable.
So obviously grass is very important to your system. What are the key secrets that you have to the finishing period?
There's no key secret to, I suppose, good grassland management. It's know the basics and keep executing them correctly. So it's keeping animals well fed, keeping them on a high plane of nutrition is first and foremost. To do that, you need to have the grass at the right stages and to make sure that you have plenty of it coming at the right time. So trying to graze cattle at the 3 leaf phase of grass, having as much clover in the sward as well is hugely beneficial, I've found, to animal performance. Clover's really digestible, it's high in protein, it's fantastic for growing cattle and putting frame on. And yeah, I'd say that's it. Like, grass is a really high quality feed when it's at the right stage and fed at the right time. So yeah, just managing grass, keeping it fresh in front of them and keeping the animals well fed, I'd say it's no more complicated and no simpler than that.
That's great. On Thursday, the 9th of July, as part of the Teagasc Virtual Beef Week, you're featuring on the evening panel discussion entitled How My Farm Grows More Grass. What can farmers expect to see on the night?
I suppose what you're going to see at the night is, you're going to see the sort of system that I'm running. It's a lot like every other farm. I know every farm is different and every farm has its own challenges. And you're going to see that, we're just coming out of a drought at the time when the videos were taken. So grass quality isn't picture perfect, but it's as good a quality as we got. And I think, yeah, you're just going to see a real farm where you'll see the investments in the infrastructure, water troughs, temporary fences, and you see that, like, to set yourself up to manage grass efficiently and effectively, it doesn't need to be complicated. It tends to actually be a lot simpler than you might think.
That's great, Sean. We're looking forward to hearing more about soil fertility, grazing infrastructure and grassland management on your farm on Thursday, the 9th of July at 7 p.m. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Lovely, thank you.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Sean for joining me on the show. Teagasc will host a virtual beef week from Monday the 6th to Friday the 10th of July. For further details, keep an eye on the Teagasc website, Facebook and Twitter pages. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss the show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan and thanks for listening.